Okay, now it's working. All right, it's working now. All right, can you guys hear us? Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you guys can hear me. No sound. Okay, hold on. You guys should be able to hear me now because I can see that the mic is picking it up. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Audio's good. Okay. It's good now. Okay. Oh, it's lagging. Everything is lagging, and there's a problem. Internet works fine for me. Internet's working fine. The internet's been really bad lately. I don't know why there's like these lags they're complaining about. The actual live stream. Lagging.
What does that mean?
Means it's slowing. It's slowing down.
Do it on my computer.
I have to get OBS on your computer. I don't have OBS. It should work. I don't know. Maybe it's the positioning.
See, it's delayed. What's the somber face?
It's not very fun having to deal with all this stuff. Okay, I think we're good.
Get thumbs up from somebody.
Guys, give me a thumbs up if we're good here. I gotta get rid of this background. Last week I had the same problem. Just lagging and just awful. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up. They say it's good.
It's good?
Yeah. But they're all thumbing up, so I think we're good. But looks like all right, I think we're good.
You good?
Yeah. Let me start recording it. Hold on. Start recording. All right, we're recording. Just yeah, you can see your face there in front of the camera.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. All right. Whenever I'm gone for a while, I'm studying heavily, and what I've been working on is probably the heaviest burden I've ever had, and that is the 50-year research since I began in Bethlehem till now to basically conclude what you call the apocalypse is misunderstood. The title of the book I'm working on is called According to the Bible, Holy Russia Defeats NATO. Now, the subtitle is Unlocking Philophase 3 Romes from Holy Scripture. I'm going to read 35 pages. This is a speck of information of why I concluded this. Once you hear the 35 pages, it becomes very difficult to make a counter-argument, and I'll explain it why as I read. Holy Russia, this anvil cracks all hammers that strike it. I am not even Russian, and neither was I searching for Russia when I began half a century ago, attempting to understand the biblical prophets. In Bethlehem, my birthplace, I read the scriptures, where also Saint Jerome dwelt, and said that Daniel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and the Apocalypse contain hidden truths, secrets that are sealed, but also promised these that one day it will be opened by one who has learned the mysteries of the scriptures. Fast forward half a century later, I concluded my abrupt title, which will definitely solicit knee-jerk reactions, asking to name one biblical prophet who even mentions a holy Russia, much less Russia defeating the North Atlantic nations. By the time we explain it, the concluding question will be, which biblical prophet did not prophesy this? While biblical prophecies express God's will, they exasperate many who claim they understand. Saint Jerome was mainly referring to Daniel 12:4, which sets a seal the book, even to the time of the end. And in verse 10, he says that those who have insight will understand, but Daniel also emphasized that none of the wicked will understand. But how can the wicked fail to understand unless these also read? These are ardent readers, scholars, theologians, even statesmen. Yet God forthrightly says that they are wicked and that they will not understand. This predicament is a prophecy into itself and resembles the flaw of Israel's blindness, where two sets of views exist. One that reveals wisdom, where every prophecy is considered without isolation. It applies the parabolic style Jesus warned about. Therefore, I speak to them in parables, because while seeing, they do not see, and while hearing, they do not hear, nor do they understand. Matthew 13:13. To better explain our point, perhaps a short little story will solidify our argument. Once upon a time in the West, two mighty rulers named Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush arose and accused Russia of being Gog and Magog, mainly because Gog in Ezekiel 38 comes from the north quarters. But the prophets address three norths, one good, another bad, and the third is really ugly. Instead of examining which north out of these three norths is Gog, these simply made it Russia, which prophetically happens to land on the good north, as we find exampled in several prophecies. Way before Bush and Reagan, for over a century, the phrase Gog and Magog became synonymous with communist Russia. Prominent Western Bible scholars who lacked insight and foresight said that Russia will one day invade the state of Israel to only be defeated by it, Then vultures would swarm and gather to feast on millions of Russian carcasses spread throughout the mountains of Israel. All this was deduced by isolating 2 chapters and from a single prophet, Ezekiel. Unbeckonest to these mighty Goliaths was a lethal trap. A stone of stumbling was embedded in that very prophecy, where the judge of all cross-examines Gog, asks, quote, "Are you," that is Gog, "not the one I spoke of in former days by my servants, the prophets of Israel?" Unfortunately for the Russophobic hordes, the words servants and prophets are in the plural, not singular form. This would mean that the rest of the prophets also mentioned this tyrant called Gog. But there is a dilemma. In the Old Testament, the name Gog is only featured in Ezekiel. How then do we find this Gog in all the other prophets? When it comes to the art of interpretation, Saint Chrysostom instructs, quote, "There is nothing written there idly and to no purpose." Every single thing has a purpose. What then is the purpose of Ezekiel 38:17, using the words servants and prophets in the plural form? Saint Jerome, writing regarding these set seals, said that solutions to mysteries rests upon who can unlock the parabolic language. It is who can interpret the parables and transmute the letter which killeth into the spirit which quickeneth. The problem many have is simple. God intentionally sets up seeming contradictions as keys for the wise and as traps for the so-called educated yet wicked. For even devils enter by claiming to uphold the scriptures. God speaks in a parabolic style that distinguishes the scriptures from any writings of man. In the other prophets, Gog is mentioned under different aliases. This is an issue that evaded the scholars who will not understand. These are the secrets. Who in history unraveled the other aliases of Gog? The answer is none. This dilemma has never been resolved until now in your hearing. What happens when we unlock the other aliases of Gog from the other prophets? Gog is Daniel 11's king of the north. This king of the north is the bad north, where this tyrant, according to Ezekiel, comes from Meshech and Tubal in Anatolia. For a scholar to disagree, we will ask, where is Gog in Daniel? Saint Jerome correctly argues against prophecy that Antiochus IV Epiphanes never fulfilled the final portions of Daniel 11. In Daniel 11, 44-45, this king of the north then must be Gog. This one goes east and north. By answering God's question, now we know that Ezekiel 38 and Daniel 11 interlock. After Gog's expedition in Daniel 11 into Egypt, Israel, and the Levant from Anatolia, Gog then heads eastwards and northwards, as Daniel says, would be towards the Russian world, the good north. Being no match to the Arctic bear is when his end comes, as Daniel says. His end comes when he invades the east and the north. While our abrupt conclusion might cause knee-jerk reactions and would sound too simplistic for many, to disagree, the scholar must answer a lethal question. Where is Gog in Daniel? After all, Gog in the Old Testament is not only in Ezekiel, but is in all the prophets. This is when it matters not what caliber is the disagreeing scholar. Such questions would cripple them. One can spend decades of research, as we did, to only discover none unlocked the mystery of Gog by answering God's question. What we discovered, however, that by unlocking this question, it also unlocks the seals that has hindered centuries of research attempting to unfold these prophetic mysteries. This is where we discover that isolating prophecies is in contempt of God's court. The Almighty has a habit, even a sense of humor, where he mixes the parabolic with the literal to trap his opposition in what Daniel, Jeremiah, and Isaiah set seals, what Matthew and Luke call stumbling blocks. Using different ancient names as nicknames regarding future tyrannies has been the main stumbling block. Just this little habit of God eluded mighty scholars who produced volumes with wrong conclusions. The name Gog is used in this verse as a metaphor. When interpreting the parabolic, that is the metaphor, Saint Clement gives the best advice, defines a parable, an allegory as, quote, a discourse that leads one to understand from what is not the principal subject, but is similar to the principal subject, to the true principal subject. St. Clement's instruction is a foundation. While Gog is used parabolically regarding a future tyrant, he is no mythical figure. We find him in the royal annals under the transcription Gugu of Luddu as the first ruler on the western coast of Anatolia, was an usurper, and like Antiochus IV Epiphanes, Daniel 11's king of the north, takes the power by intrigue, waged a war against the supporters of the former dynasty. Gog was a ruler's bodyguard, is perhaps why in Ezekiel we have be a guard for them. After his death, this kingdom was eventually lost to Cyrus the Great. Therefore, in Ezekiel 38, ancient Gog, that is Gyges, is not the principal subject. He is metaphorically referenced, for the true and principal subject is a future second Gyges, defeated by a second future Cyrus. I quote this Cyrus from Isaiah, quote, calling a bird of prey from the east, the man of my purpose from a far country. This is the good north that comes with the symbol of the eagle. A nickname using a historic figure helps us understand that the true and principal subject's home base, the future Gog, being the same as the old one, Lydia, not Russia. Gyges of Lydia, 680-644 BC, was the first ruler on the western coast of Anatolia in Asia Minor. This mainly covers the Eastern Roman Empire's landmass, what Russians call the Second Rome, Byzantium. This is Byzantium before it was occupied by the Ottomans. These are currently re-arising as the Neo-Ottomans is the very subject of this prophecy. While Russia and Constantinople today have semi-stable relations, this will end after Erdogan is gone, where this NATO member will set their eyes on Crimea. Many so-called Protestant scholars and theologians simply isolated Ezekiel 38-39. It does not take a rocket scientist to define what the biblical prophets alluded to as the future threat to God's people. This threat was not directed at Europe or towards Anatolia. Indeed, it stems from these. Such nations have always threatened Russia, most of which comprise the two flanks of where the Ottoman Empire once stood. What constituted the ancient Roman Empire as harlot or beast has been the subject of scholars from the dawn of time. Even as far back as the Jews of Bar Kokhba's days, down to the church fathers, we have countless interpreters throughout history spoke of a revival of the Roman Empire, as was the fourth kingdom of Daniel 7. This recognition by biblical scholarship and church fathers has been widespread and enduring. The exodus from a mystical Babylon in Apocalypse 18:4 was always interpreted as the separation from the idolatrous society of the Roman Empire that shall be rewarded in the end with citizenship in the New Jerusalem. When it comes to the Roman Empire, we have overwhelming agreement as countless scholars in centuries worth of interpretations, be it Catholic, Orthodox, or even Protestant, define what the apocalypse meant regarding a final global threat stems from that empire. But this empire constituted two flanks, not one. Daniel 2 speaks of two legs, not one. Emperor Diocletian in 286 BC divided the empire, and for 100 years Rome experienced even more divisions until it was finally divided in 395 AD into two substructures: a Western Roman, Northwest, Old Rome, and an Eastern Roman Empire, Northeast, Constantinople. When Constantine the Great triumphed, and with Europe plagued by warring spirits from Goths to Germanic barbarians, wisely made its eastern flank Constantinople the capital in 330 AD. Europe was prone to violence, wherein every century it still endures a serious war even till today. This was obvious when the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 476 AD, invaded by Germanic barbarian hordes. But even such fall is not what the prophets intend. Rather, this occurred a millennia from Christ's visit, when the Latins fell away from the true faith as a result of the division of churches in the 9th and 10th centuries. 1054 was only the end of this process. Indeed, the Western empires claim to inherit the ancient Roman name, rivaled with Constantinople over which emperor would be called Roman, began with the coronation of Charlemagne in 800 as Roman emperor. The Roman Mediterranean vector was turned to the north. Byzantium continued to call itself the Roman Empire. Its fall in 1453 was also a phenomena not so much of the military as of the spiritual and confessional sphere. The disaster was God's punishment for the betrayal of the faith at the Ferrara-Florence Council of 1438-1439. After a millennia from when Christianity sprouted, the bottomless pit loosened its locusts. This is when the Seljuks began to make inroads after their victory in the Battle of Manzikert in 1071. This became a turning point, eventually occupied Constantinople by the Muslim Ottomans in 1453. This is found in the Psalms, where biblical meshach in Psalm 120 verse 5 was studded with, quote, the tents of Qidar, Arabia's religion. These, in the future, become what scriptures call Gog and Magog. But these are not Russian. These are who currently occupy the eastern flank of the Roman Empire after what Russians call their rise as the Third Rome was born of it. This one is separated from the other two, being cut out of this mountain. This is a reserved kingdom